If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. I could probably end the list right there, but I'm going to continue. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. Speaking from personal experience, creating a podcast felt so overwhelming. I didn't know where to start, but using Anchor was a no-brainer. Their website and app is user-friendly. You're able to navigate through it easily. It's pretty cool, guys. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, and it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. A one-stop shop. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. All right, episode number 6. Today's going to be a different podcast than my usual sitting down with a guest and talking to them. Today, I'm actually going to answer questions. I only have 2 of them on my email, but like I said in the descriptions, I'll answer it on a monthly basis. Even if it's just one, I'll sit down and do it. So this podcast might not be long at all. So the first question I have is from Caroline. She wants to know, I want to start a podcast, but don't know where to start. Any suggestions? Well, I've only done 6 episodes and I'm starting out myself, so I don't think I'm the best person to ask that question to, but I will tell you what I did, and I want to say this before I continue. Nothing I say should be set in stone. I would probably say do more research before you go ahead and just take my advice. But when I first thought of creating a podcast, I just jumped into this world and I didn't know anything about it. I listen to podcasts every single day. I listen to Comedy Central, Josh Wolf, Joe Rogan. So a lot of my library is pretty much comical. So I don't have much that could reference to what I do. I think the closest thing is probably Joe Rogan, but his is more conversational, and I'm asking questions and digging in. But the first thing was the title. Like, what am I going to name it? Because there's so many different podcasts out there that you need to have something that will catch. You need to have a catchy name that will stick, because if you don't have that, you're not going to get the attention. And the second thing is the logo, right? So when people look through podcasts, the 2 things that they look at are the names and the logo. What sticks out? So that's something that, luckily, I didn't really have a trouble with the logo. I did it like 10-15 minutes max, and I only did one. I sent it out for review and to the people that I trust, and they said, yes, this is nice, I like it, this is pretty dope. So I ran with that, and the name Indie Center is actually in connection of something that I've been wanting to do for the past few years that I just haven't really launched yet. So before I landed on the Indie Center, I was so confused, because what could I talk about? What do I have to offer the podcast world that would make you want to listen to me? And I'm a really curious person. So I kind of landed on not so much about me, but more about you as the guest sitting down and me asking you questions. So when I thought about marrying my Indie Center idea to the podcast world, it just fit. So all in all, it took me probably 2 months to actually hash that out. And then I thought about content, right? So I sat down I didn't have a pen and a pad. I just used my notepad and my phone. But I sat down and I wrote possible guests and what they did, and what could we talk about. So I had Mike the Realtor. I had Chris Haney. I have so many other guests on my list. I think I have like 15 or 20. After that, I'm gonna have to start branching out and looking outside of my proximity and reaching out to people. But luckily, I've gotten a few sit down requests that I'm grateful for. But content was the next thing that I had to think about after the title, after the logo, was content and building off of that, right? So if I the way I structure my content is I record 4 to 5 weeks out, and it works for me. But if you're doing a sport podcast, or I don't know what your Caroline, I don't know what your plans are or what you're gonna do in the field, but if you're more real-time sports where you're commenting or talking about real events that are happening now, probably that whole 5-week ahead structure won't fit best for you. You'd probably have to tackle it episode after episode after episode. But that didn't work for me because outside of this podcast, I have a full-time job. I have 3 kids. I have a wife. I'm doing other things. I'm writing other films. I'm helping out with other projects that I will get lost and I will fall behind very quickly. So the whole structuring 5 weeks ahead thing worked best for me. So it gave me time to, prepare for Mike, prepare for Chris, prepare for Enrique, prepare for Jose, prepare for Raul, which I haven't done yet, but he's on my to-do list next. Raul Colon, you're on my to-do list. So that gave me more of a freedom to just work at my pace, right? So after within that 3-month period, once I got all that done, it took me a month to sit down with my first, I think it was like first four or five guests. So I did all that, and once I got down to my 5th one, which was Ricky Flores, I was able to start scheduling them and releasing them. And yeah, that worked for me. And I'm not sure where you heard about me, or if you stumbled upon a share on Facebook or whatnot, but that's my other thing. Connectivity and engagement. It's hard to get the word out there if you're just doing the podcast. If you're just recording your podcast and releasing it out there, and it's great that you're releasing the content if at whatever point you're going to do it, Caroline. But you need to find a platform other than podcasts that could help you push that out there. Because if you're just throwing it out in the podcast world, you're throwing a coin in the ocean and in hopes that somebody else will find it. It's going to be really hard. So you need to have a drive behind it. Mine, luckily, it has a lot to do with entertainers and people that already have a platform that's existing already. So the week of that I dropped Mike the Realtor, I engage in my analytics and I look at the numbers. So I think my 3rd or 4th day after it went live, the numbers weren't where I wanted it. So I decided to sit down and strategize how I was going to push this forward and how I was going to move forward with the podcast, since dropping it and then sharing a link on Facebook wasn't working. I decided to create the Facebook page for it. So from there, it gave me more freedom to not only post about the podcast, but post about the guests, their work, or sharing their video or their page, because I find that somebody in that field is more susceptible to share what you have to say about them, and then their friends will see it, right? So when I did the video for Enrique and Ricky Flores, their engagement rate went pretty up because they have a following as well. So once I put that line out there, their friends were sharing it, and there were comments and there were likes, and people were posting about it, which is great because that's free advertisement for me, but it's actually free advertisement, for them. It's more material, more content for the person I'm sitting down with. So they offer me content and I offer them content in return. So it worked out in both favors. So I hope that answered your question. Again, this is my sixth episode, but I hope those suggestions work out for you. But again, do your research before you go forward and follow my word. Like I said, it worked out for me. It's working for me thus far. It's only 6 episodes in, so I can't really say it worked. I'm not up there. I'm not making, big moves, but it's working for me. So good luck, Caroline. Next question. It's coming from Nick from Georgia. How's it going, Nick? Well, before I go into your question, I want to say thank you to everybody that's listening. I look at my analytics weekly, and I'm seeing people from Georgia, people from Wisconsin, Florida, New York, Chicago, obviously. Thank you guys for listening and tuning in. I really do appreciate your support and your constant attention. I mean, every Monday I drop something. It's a guaranteed number every Monday, and it's great. That's really good. Thank you guys. Let me get back to the question. How do you prepare for your guest? Do you do any homework on the question mark? I think it's any homework on them. I skimmed through their previous work. I mean, because one, I've worked with them, so, and I know them personally, so it's really not that hard for me to get questions out for them. But like, there's guests that have a list of projects that they've done, and they have reels and they have videos. Of course, I want to look at that. And I drive to and from work 3 hours per day, so I have a lot of time on my hand to where I could build that set of questions or topic of conversations or whatever it is. So homework, yeah, I do. Like Raul Colon, he has so many films. He sent me his IMDb page, and I'm going through the whole thing. I'm going through his whole filmography that he has on Vimeo, on YouTube, and I'm getting my list ready for him. And the same thing with Jose Santiago. I did that, and and Chris Haney, he's a boxer, so he has a bunch of material out there. So I look at that. So do I do homework? Yeah, but am I so reliant on that? Not really. So I don't want this podcast to be like an interview. For some reason, that word just like it just sets me off. I don't like the word interview because it's a question answer. That's not the format that I see myself having, because I don't see myself as an interviewer. I see this as a sit down. It's not formal. It's relaxed. Half of the time, I'm not sure if you guys hear it when you hear the podcast, but we're drinking. We're drinking a few beers. We're hanging out. It's such a relaxed environment that it shouldn't be question and answer. It should be question, answer, comment, opinion, change topic. That's what I see myself, and I've seen it on a few episodes here and there, dabbled, but it's not an interview. So I don't really have my mind set on just creating the question. I'm having my mind set on creating that atmosphere for them. A lot of the times I'm meeting at wherever they feel comfortable. I just met with JP McAllister. We did it at his house. We drank, we talked, and we relaxed. It was good. So it's not an interview. It's literally a sit down, relax. So I don't harp on the questions as much as I do the atmosphere or where it's going to be. So yeah, I think that answered your question, Nick from Georgia. Thank you for your questions. Tune in next month if there's any questions. I mean, there might not be a question, so I might just have to do away with the whole question monthly thing. But if you guys have any questions, please make sure you email me at indiecenter.podcast@gmail.com. That's indiecenter.podcast@gmail.com for any questions, comments, concerns. If you have a question for a previous guest, or you have a suggestion for a guest, shoot it my way. I will talk about it on air and see if it comes to fruition, But yeah, see you guys on Monday for the Halloween episode. This episode of the Indie Center podcast is brought to you by Spotify, the place where you can listen to your favorite artists and podcasts for free. Did you hear me? You don't even need a premium membership. Spotify has a huge catalog of podcasts on every topic, including the one you're listening to right now. On Spotify, you can follow your favorite podcast so you never miss an episode. Are you subscribed to me yet? Wink, wink. Premium users can download episodes to listen to offline wherever you are, and that is so convenient. How many times have you found yourself in an airplane or driving down a road with no reception and you just want to escape but can't? You are stuck sitting next to somebody that snores, or you're stuck in a meaningless conversation and you just want to listen to podcasts. Well, now you can, guys, and you can easily share what you're listening to with your friends on Instagram. So if you haven't done so already, be sure to download the Spotify app and search for Indie Center Podcast on Spotify, or browse podcasts in the Your Library tab. Also, make sure to follow me so you never miss an episode. If you enjoyed this week's episode, please make sure you hit that subscribe button to stay centered on all Indie Center podcast episodes. If you are an independent creator and have a story to share and want to have a sit down, please email me at indiecenter.podcast@gmail.com. That's indiecenter.podcast@gmail.com. If you have sponsorship inquiries, I'd love to help local businesses. Please email me at indiecenter.podcast@gmail.com. Until next Monday, guys. Peace.